Two more games to show in tonight's program. This next one against Robert Walker. And the only thing I know about Robert Walker is that he was from Portland, Oregon, and that his rating was 2000. And you get that information out of Chess Life magazine, May of 1958 edition. I think it was 58, or was this in 57? 1957. So we have e4 from Bobby, e5, knight f3, knight c6, and the Rai Lopez opening with bishop b5. Walker chooses Paul Morphy's defense with a6, and Bobby plays the Columbus variation, bishop a4. Now, Horatio Caro's variation, which is what I frequently play on the dark side of this, and bishop b3, and the Norwegian variation. Again, the line I typically play. I sometimes frequently play d6 here as well, although that line is not really liked by a lot of players. I often play d6 first and then the knight, but the Norwegian variation with knight a5 and white castles. Now here, the most common move is d6, but Walker with knight takes the bishop. Pawn takes the knight, and now d6 was played. d4, and that brings us back into the book with f6. In this line, I frequently play bishop b7 myself. But f6 is the book move. And knight h4 doesn't make much sense to me. You still have two minor pieces to get out of bed. Hello, chess rookie. So I would prefer getting my bishop out or getting my knight out. These two moves make more sense to me on principle. But knight h4, and that does get an inaccuracy, and the annotator is working now, indicating that bishop e3 is to be preferred. Knight to e7 here, and now knight c3. So I'm a little confused by this move from Bobby, to be honest. I thought the purpose must have been to push this f-man. Well, one would expect b4 to be played here. Of course, the threat here is knight takes pawn because this pawn is pinned to the rook. But bishop e6 was played by Walker, and that gets a big orange question mark. Let's see what it says about b4. A star. Well, bishop e6 was played, and that's asking Bobby to push his pawn to d5. Bobby went with bishop e3 here. Wonder what it would think about d5. It seems like a viable option, and after bishop f7, pawn f4. The bot does not like my move. It indicated f4, but I was going to play that after, and I get a check mark there. Well, bishop e3 was Bobby's play. Now g5 puts the question to the knight. g6 is definitely safer, isn't it? And Bobby plays queen f3, getting a double exclam for the second consecutive game. Please, please take my knight. Well, obviously that's a mistake to take the knight. Walker played bishop g7, which is the correct way to defend. If you take the knight and queen takes the pawn here, you've got problems. You've got big problems. First of all, both the bishop and the rook are on priests. So if you save your rook, which gets a question mark, then I take. So queen to d7 is indicated by the bot because you do not want to take the rook here. You want to play d5 and attack this bishop. The point is, if you take the rook, then knight g6, boom. And your queen is starting to get a bit claustrophobic. You can retreat to f6, but bishop g7, queen g5, he takes d4, and yeah, it gets complicated. I mean, I think this move here, knight to g6, in this line would be an equalizer. Let's go back. So instead, after queen d7, you play d5. And that bishop has to find somewhere to go. And where can it go? Where can it go, ladles and jelly spoons? Meanwhile, I'm still putting heat on that rook. All right. After queen f3, Walker played bishop g7, the correct move. So Bobby plays d takes e5, frowned upon, and Walker plays d takes e5, even frowned more severely upon. The bot's saying now's the time to play g takes the knight. And even though I'm getting this fork, you can castle and pin my pawn to my queen. Now I can still take your knight, because if you take my queen, I'm taking your queen. So you wouldn't be able to do that, so you'd have to just take the pawn and make me move my queen to safety. Let's go back. Pawn takes the pawn was played, and knight f5 here. Bishop takes the knight, and pawn takes the bishop. Now with all that tension resolved, white is ready to get one of his rooks to the open d file. Since I've already got a rook here on an open file, I would probably use my king's rook, wouldn't you? Black castles, and Bobby indeed plays king's rook to d1, hitting the queen. The queen flees to the c8 square, and bishop to c5, hitting the knight and pinning it to the rook. Black should just defend the knight with the rook and break the pin. Instead, he played knight takes f5. The bot calling for queen to defend the knight. The reason I like defending with my rook is it breaks the pin. Let's see what the bot says. I get a star for that. I'll still go ahead and trade. I only get a check mark there. And yeah, okay. Let's go back. Robert Walker with knight takes f5, and bishop takes the rook. Bishop takes the bishop. Now knight to d5 is played. King g7, pawn g4, quite a move. Pawn g4, attacking the pinned piece. And black resigned right there. Because the point is, if you move your knight to safety, say knight to d6, I'm taking with check, my queen defended by my knight. And your king is really doomed, because you only have one legal move. And then I pick up this pawn with another check. King h8 would be played. And there are a lot of ways to win from here. I can pick up another pawn with check, or I can lift my rook and slide. And it's really impossible for black to defend here. If you hit my queen with knight f7, I wanted to go to the h file anyway. And if you play h6, relying on the defense of these two pieces, I'll take your knight. If you block with the knight, as indicated by the arrow, I've got g5 attacking the terminally pinned piece. So you're losing it anyway. Oh, maybe you could try queen g4 check and force a queen trade. That would be worth a try, but your knight gets trapped. There's no way and nowhere that's occupied that you can move your knight. You could try a counterattack against my knight, but I'll take the pawn, and I'm still attacking you. And if you defend your knight with your rook, say rook d4, I will grab this, and I'm ready to come up to the 8th. So I'm winning in so many different ways, it's no wonder black resigned. Soon I'll begin simplifying. You'll have to bring your rook back. No, you can't. That hangs the knight. There's nothing you can do. You're just dead. You're dead. You can't allow the check because the only way out is to block and lose your bishop. So maybe king g8. On king g8, what should I play? Just simplify, right? Just simplify. But you're in a bad way now. This is hot. You can't go here without allowing a fork. It can get really ugly. These are hot. You could try rook b4, I suppose. That would be horrific. Easiest here is probably just trade. I mean, there are probably a lot of ways to win. Maybe I could super attack the bishop. Yeah, the bishop's kind of trapped. I'll super attack the bishop. If you play bishop h8, my other rook comes in with check, not check, but my other rook comes in, and you're just out of things to do. Meanwhile, your knight is still completely trapped. If you create a square for your knight, well, I'll just slide my rook on over somewhere far away. Not there, because, oh yeah, it doesn't matter, because either rook can go to the 8th. Yeah, and it's done. You can't, there's nothing stopping one of these two rooks from going to the 8th with checkmate. And there you go.